Welcome back, everyone. It is now time for the first run of the Speed Souls Charity Marathon 2022, and I have the great pleasure of introducing one of my friends, catalystz. How are you, catalystz?
I'm doing good. Thank you. How about you, Wolfie? How are you doing? Besides your fridge breaking.
Beside my fridge breaking, I'm doing great, dude. That is quite the terrible start to the weekend. But I'm sure SCM will make up for it, so it's all good.
Yeah, so hello, my name is not QQ, and this is not Dark Souls any percent. This is indeed Elden Ring, so we're gonna be opening up the marathon with it. This is gonna be an all Remembrances run. I'll talk about the category, the patch, and everything in a little while as we get on the way. What's important to note is that this is going to be one of the most game-breaking showcases of the entire video game. So get ready for that. And I'm going to start as Samurai. The reason for that is, for this run, I basically need a weapon that has a stance. Samurai starts with the Uchigatana, so that's perfect. And additionally, the Samurai also starts with the bow, and I can use the bow for a little glitch that I'll explain in a bit. Now, the starting keepsake doesn't really matter because the run is so broken that I don't really need anything. So I might as well pick this Crimson Amber Medallion, which increases my max HP. However, because it is percentage based, and for the entirety of the run I'll be staying at base vigor, it's gonna add like almost nothing. But might as well pick it because there's nothing better to do. Anyways, with that being said, that is basically all the introduction that needs to be done. And the timer is gonna start in 3, 2, 1 and go. All right, so the first Speed Souls Charity Marathon 2022 run is gonna start with a bang, and that is a 16-second black screen here at the beginning. This is because I'm still on patch 1.02, which is actually the release patch on PC. And there's multiple reasons for that, but unfortunately this black screen is not fixed yet, so yeah, enjoy. But finally we are down to gameplay now. And the very first thing that I already did, a little piece of strat, was I was blocking as I picked up the tarnished finger there. I need to pick it up to be able to open these doors. And if I'm blocking while picking something up, I basically cancel the pickup animation and can start sprinting immediately. So that is pretty neat. Not gonna get to do that too much because there's not that many items that I'll be picking up. So here's the first boss. I mean, he's like there somewhere. You can hear the music, but I just jumped to my death instead because this is kind of like Sekiro, where essentially the first boss fight, even if you win, you're gonna end up dying and ending up in this place at the beach anyways. So it's just faster to jump to your death. We get the 2 flasks. Those will give us back our FP and HP in the top left corner. That is blue and red respectively, but I don't really need the mana flask because I'm not really going to be using any spells. As I'm making my way to the elevator, I'm gonna reorder my inventory real quick to not forget about it. That is pretty important because it's going to allow me to set up some items later to be next to each other. And then one thing you're gonna notice is I'm gonna be always jumping when I'm going uphill because it is slightly faster than running on flat ground. Also, here is the first grace. These are basically like the adequate of Dark Souls bonfires. I'm sure you're familiar with those. They work the same way. I'm taking this one, not for safety, but I'll be coming back here later. And here you saw the first glitch that I did, or first little trick. And that's the bow cancel. So bow cancels are essentially a way to cancel the fall animation after a jump. In this game, unlike in Dark Souls, you cannot cancel fall animations by rolling out of them or toggle escaping. You're basically always bound to take a hard fall. However, if you two-hand the bow in your right hand mid-air at a specific point of the jump, the fall animation can actually be cancelled out of, which is really neat. The problem is that it basically all depends on like each individual jump. And so each jump has an individual setup, and if you have a jump where you're dropping from uneven ground and landing on uneven ground, it's going to be very difficult to pull off the cancel consistently. Okay, so now as I'm running towards the second grace, where I'm going to rest to be able to get Torrent, our trusty steed, and also a flying goat, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the category. So this is all remembrances. All remembrances essentially means obtaining all the remembrance items, which are dropped by special kind of major bosses that the game has to offer. There's 15 of them, so I will obtain all 15 and then finish the game by reaching the credits. That is the goal of this category. It's sort of like a little bit of an adequate to what you might expect in Dark Souls and all bosses. However, for all bosses, there's 165 of them in this game, so that would take a little bit longer. And maybe if QQ keeps on sleeping for a while, you know, we would have time for it, but there's other runs to be had as well, so I'd rather go and do all remembrances instead. So I get on my horse, and I'm gonna be running towards the Stormhill Shack Grace. There, I'm going to rest again as well, because I first need to come back there, and also I'll be using that Grace for a glitch throughout the run, for one of the bread and butter glitches, actually. So let's rest here. And so now, the reason I'm on 1.05 for this category, sorry, 1.02 for this category, is because a lot of the glitches that would be used are actually patched out on 1.04 and 1.05 and 1.06 specifically. And one of these glitches is the Pegasus glitch, and I'm gonna be performing it now. You're gonna get to see it a lot throughout this run. And as I'm running here towards the shortcut to Liurnia, there's a way to just go around the left there, just regular parkour. But what I can do is I can also jump off the horse here and quit out. Now, I quit out at a time when the game registers me jumping off the horse, but before the horse is actually fully dismissed. So you're gonna see him spawning next to me, like this. Then I'm gonna walk to this platform, and I'm gonna walk off of the platform and quit out again. What this does is it actually throws Torrent off the platform into a kill box that's underneath. Maybe you'll be able to see it. Okay, we are not able to see it, but he's dead. However, I can respawn him right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And you might be wondering why I would do such a procedure. Well, it is to enable me to fly. So this is the Pegasus glitch. I think the name is quite obvious right now. What ends up happening here is any entity going through kill plane in this game will have its gravity disabled. Or, I mean, works the same way in Dark Souls. And think about, like, enemies. Doesn't really matter, right? Because the only way to respawn enemies is to reload the entire area. So their gravity status also gets changed. However, without reloading the area, I can respawn Torrent. And because he went through a kill plane and has his gravity disabled, I can ride him while the gravity is still disabled. And if I'm on Torrent, the only thing that matters is Torrent's properties. The player is completely irrelevant at that point. So I make my way over to this Liurnia Highway South Grace, and we're gonna be running for a while here midair. Hello, soldier. Probably haven't seen a flying horse before, but well, there's a first for everything. And I'm gonna be heading over to the Divine Tower of Liurnia here on the right. Nice lag. That is because 46 is one of the bosses that needs to be killed because he has a remembrance. However, reaching 46 requires progressing Rani's questline for quite a while, and then running all the way here to pick up the Curse Mark of Death, and then getting hugged by Fia, and then you can fight the boss. However, the Curse Mark is always spawned in the tower. It's just the access to the tower that is locked behind the questline. However, this is like the perfect time to go ahead and just run towards the tower, scale up using Torrents or Pegasus, and pick it up right now. So that's what we are doing at the moment. Now, another thing I need to mention that is important. When on Pegasus, it's very easy to gain height. You just need to scale up some collision. However, it actually becomes very difficult to lose height. And the only way I can actually dismount Torrent and thus get back on stable ground is if I'm standing on stable ground already. And that can be problematic. So you will notice that I'll always try to stay relatively close to some kind of a ground plane, because then I can just jump on the horse and land a little bit lower. However, if I end up being too high up, I touch this, by the way, I touch this pillar to load the next part. Otherwise, this mountain wouldn't load properly when I get to it. As I was saying, if I'm gonna be too high up above some kind of a ground plane and jump, for example, I will end up being suspended in the air with no way to get off the horse. And then I have three options. I can either warp to my last grace, I can wait for 12 seconds and die, or I can quit out and get spawned back to my last stable position, which is gonna be before I went midair. So, yeah, never wanna get stuck midair, basically. So here I'll be scaling up this mountain, like I said. This is pretty easy, except there's one little tricky part of collision here for some reason. So let's try to navigate around that. Come on, let me up. There we go. So now I want to get on this bridge, so I need to ensure that I don't get too much height. See, this is perfect. I'll just be able to jump up here, no problem. Get off the horse, open the doors. Now, in a regular speedrun, which is timed by in-game time, meaning that loading screens do not count towards the final time, I would quit out here for this animation. However, because this is RTA, I'm just gonna run back, get back on the horse. And this is another huge advantage of Pegasus. If you have Pegasus activated, there are areas in this game where you're not supposed to be able to ride a horse. Like, you know, inside this tower and on this elevator. However, if Pegasus is active, the game's not gonna force you off the horse, and that is huge. And it will allow us to run through certain areas on the horse, making it a lot faster than actually doing it on foot. So after I pick up the Curse Mark of Death here, I'm gonna warp to the last Grace, and then I'm gonna rest again, which is gonna summon Melina once more. And she's gonna take me to the Round Table Hold, which is kind of like the hub. It's actually here on the loading screen, funnily enough. The hub for this game, you need to go there at least once. Otherwise, you cannot get to Lanedale. So we need to go there. This is the time to do it. And then after that, I'm going to perform the second bread and butter glitch of this run. And that is the wrong warp. So yeah, without really anything, we're going to be wrong warping. Which is kind of wild. Like in Dark Souls, for example, if you want a wrong warp, which was supposed to be happening now, but Devon is asleep, obviously. You're supposed to get some items first, but here you can basically just wrong warp from the start of the game. So I rest at the Round Table Hold Grace, then I warp to my last Grace, and then as that is happening, I warp to a different Grace on the map, and that basically makes the game lose track of the coordinates to which, like, it knows which area to spawn the player to, but loses the track of the coordinates to use. And instead of using the proper spawn point for the Grace that I warped to using the map, it ends up spawning me at the first spawn point of the list for that area. And that is very conveniently here, the Purified Runes. I'll be wrong warping a lot this run, so I'll get to the explanation again, and it's gonna be a little bit more complicated at some point too. But I'll try to do my best to kind of parse it and explain it clearly. But yeah, essentially, I trigger 2 warps at the same time, game gets confused, ooga booga, you wrong warp, right? That's sort of how it works. So now the goal is to get to the Academy. The Academy is kind of the second legacy dungeon you're normally supposed to go to after Stormwell. However, the reason I want to get to the Academy is not to fight the bosses there, but it is to get to the Volcano Manor, and getting trapped in the Academy is the fastest way to get there. The reason I want to get to the Volcano Manor is because it has the weapon that I'll be using for the entirety of the run. And it also allows me to kill Rykard, and Rykard will give me some runes, and I need some runes to upgrade the weapon as well. But then, well, I don't want to say the runes are irrelevant, because they're not, but most of them are later on. But in order to enter the Academy, I have to go get the key that's here. And while I'm on my way there, I pick up this Temple Quarter Grace that I can come back to later as well. That will be for Astel. And then there's this dragon that is in the way of between me and the Academy key. However, I can just go ahead, run around the dragon. I'm gonna try to go really wide to trigger his combat late so I can just warp away before he spawns like this. Normally, in a real run, again, you would basically just run underneath the dragon, then quit out to reset combat. However, because this is RTA, I made sure to actually diverge a little bit. So entering the Academy now, we are going to take the main Grace here. Oh, I see QQ in the chat. Nice. There's no problem, dude. Don't feel too bad about it. We are good. I was ready to step in. So here in the Academy, I take the Grace, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a nifty little setup here and try to do Pegasus in 1. So Pegasus in 1 is essentially getting the torrent storage with the first quit out that I did in 2 quit outs, right? So the first quit out, and throwing torrent off with the second quit out, doing both of those in just 1 And you can see that that worked perfectly. So now, instead of running through the academy, I'm running around it. And I'm gonna run on the water wheel. And then I'm gonna try to get... grabbed by the Virgin Abductor on the bottom. Which is kind of like the Easter egg. And a way that you can travel to the... Volcano Manor. So I drop on the water wheel, drop down on the bottom, and get grabbed. Very nice. However, we are not going to be trapped for too long, because the first thing that I'll be doing is immediately running to a grace that's nearest here in the Volcano Manor. Yeah, I died. Unfortunate. I'm sure there's gonna be some unintended deaths as well. I mean, it's the first round of the marathon. Something has to go awry, but we'll see. So, this is supposed to be kind of like a preview area for this Legacy Dungeon. However, I can just drop down here and roll into the Legacy Dungeon proper. You're supposed to get here, like, quite a bit later on. Like, almost anything's gonna one-shot me here, simply because, you know, I have base stats, and this is like a... kind of late mid-game area, really. Let's jump over these lavateurs on the ground. And I'm gonna be immediately going to the grace here so that I can rest, which means that I'll be able to warp, because, like I said, I'm in a trapped state. Let's jump around these doors. Take this grace. And then immediately I'm gonna wrong warp, but I'm gonna do it a little bit differently this time. I'm gonna wrong warp to the Stormhill Shack Grace first. Now, the default spawn point, the first one on the list, for this area around Stormhill Shack, is actually under the map. So I spawn out of bounds. However, after quitting out, the game now knows which area I was in the last time, which was the Volcano Manor, but also lost track of the coordinates to which it needs me to spawn at. And so I end up wrong warping within the area that I'm at. So instead of the first wrong warp where I wrong warped in the target destination, here I wrong warp in the target destination, Stormhill Shack, but because I spawn out of bounds and quit out, it puts me back to the first area that I was in, that I was wrong warping from, but wrong warps me within it. This allows me to wrong warp in areas that do not actually have graces, which is super, super useful. And it will be used a lot. Because obviously not all areas are conducive to wrong warping, because the spawn points just are not going to be beneficial, or they're just going to be like straight up killing you, because there's a lot of spawn points that are out of bounds. And even less of these areas have graces in them. So this way I'm able to wrong warp twice essentially, and it allows me to wrong warp in the original area. I set up Pegasus again. I'm going to just wrap around the Volcano Manor here. I'm gonna do some menuing to prepare for the first fight. And essentially you're supposed to kind of run through the Volcano Manor and then end up getting this teleporter to get to Rykard, the Remembrance boss of this area. But I can just run directly to the teleporter like this. Now, what you're gonna see is... what you're gonna see on this next fight is what you're gonna see on most of the fights, but it's doubly broken here, because the Serpent Hunter L2 actually staggers Rykard. And I'm gonna perform what I like to call the pizza swap. Some people call it the chainsaw glitch as well. And it's gonna get wild. So I'll do it first. I'll explain it later. Just rejoice. So that's phase 1, gunned down. This boss has a second phase as well, but unless I mess up the glitch, it should be just as smooth. Well, and that was Rykard, the first fight of the run. And now let's go back to the academy again. This is because I want to get to the 4 belfries. I'll be wrong warping from there later on, and this is a good time to go take that grace. So again, the 4 belfries are there, so I can just directly go there with Pegasus. I'm gonna do this nifty setup again. And let me talk about the pizza swap, okay? So the pizza swap is a glitch that abuses the fact that I can transfer a stance from one weapon to another, essentially. I'm using stance with the Uchigatana, and then I am able to equip the Serpent Hunter without interrupting the stance. The result is me using a stance on a weapon that doesn't have it. Now, the way I can do that is there are actually multiple ways, but the way I do it here is I'm abusing the pivot. So a pivot is basically a small 180 animation that your character does if you're facing away from an enemy and then lock onto it. During that animation, it is possible to swap out very quickly your equipment. So what I do in that menuing sequence, which is the most difficult part about the glitch, is swap out the Uchigatana while holding L2. Or rather, I tap L2 at the beginning, which starts the stance. Then I swap out the Uchigatana for the Serpent Hunter. And then hold L2 again. And that allows me to activate the stance on the Serpent Hunter. Now, what happens afterwards? Well, what happens afterwards is that the Serpent Hunter doesn't have any info for what stance animation to use. So again, it defaults to presumably the first one on the list, and super conveniently, extremely conveniently, this is really, really lucky, the first one on the list is actually the Giz's Wheel, or the Whirligig Saw equivalent of this game. And that stance hits very, very quickly in rapid ticks. But for the damage values, and poise values and stuff like that, and also hitboxes, the Serpent Hunter L2 data is being used. I didn't warp. However, because at that point, the game is fetching the default state of the weapon, meaning that, you know, a weapon without any ashes of war and stuff like that, the default state of the Serpent Hunter is the one that is used inside of the Rykard fight. So that means I'll be able to keep up even the hitbox of the Serpent Hunter from the Rykard boss fight, which, as you're gonna see, is gonna be absolutely ridiculous. So I hope that was an understandable explanation. In the meanwhile, I picked up the imbued Stone Sword key to get to be able to use one of the portals at full bear freeze. And then I went to obtain the Bernal set. Bernal is an NPC there at Stormhill Shack that dies after you kill Rykard, if you haven't talked to him yet. The reason I do that is to get the Devour Scepter, which will be used for a glitch later on. After that, I wrong warped to Ichi here. And I went there to buy the Somber Smithing Stones, upgrade my Serpent Hunter to +4. That's the last upgrade. And now I get to this grace here, down Highway South. I run up a little bit to get to a different area, basically, or you can imagine that I crossed the line on a grid. And then I'm gonna wrong warp again, and this wrong warp location is very, very convenient because it puts me directly behind the Stormwhale Castle. And Stormwhale Castle's legacy remembrance boss, rather, is Godric, so Godric also needs to be killed. And this is like the perfect way to do it, because I can just backtrack towards the last area in Stormwhale using Pegasus instead of having to go through the entire legacy dungeon. So I'm gonna set up Torrent here. First, Torrent storage. Again, if you're just joining us, this allows me to keep the horse out because I quit out when I jump off, but not when the horse gets dismissed. And then the second quit out is when I walk off of a platform to ensure that Torrent, well, sometimes it's actually Torrent throwing me off into the kill plane, but to ensure that Torrent falls through the kill plane, then I can respawn him and his gravity will be disabled. Like that, you could hear the thud, which means he died. Respawn him using 1 flask charge. And then run up here. Get some height, because the arena is a little bit higher. So I get on these rocks. I'm gonna try to use this tree and these rocks up here. Perfect. And now let's head to Godric. Now, with Godric, you're gonna notice that, again, he's not gonna be fighting back. The reason for this is not because he gets perma-staggered, but because his AI trigger is by the fog wall. But we obviously never actually enter from the fog wall. Instead, we enter out of bounds like this. Wait for the area to load, jump down, pizza swap. And he's dead. And we hit him so hard that his cape ends up getting suspended in the air, just like that. From there, back to the 4 belfries, where I was just right before this time. I need to rest. That is because if you warp to some grace and then you want to wrong warp afterwards, it's basically impossible. So you have to rest in between. Don't really know why that is the case, but it is. So here I'm gonna open up this portal, and this portal is essentially like supposed to be... it's basically supposed to be like a preview area of Nokron here. However, and you're only supposed to like look at it. However, because I'm in Nokron, and I can wrong warp to the Stormhill Shack, and then quit out, I can wrong warp within this preview area, and it's gonna actually put me to the area that you're normally supposed to go to when you're in Nokron. So again, extremely convenient game design here. So now we're in Shifra. This is normally accessible only after killing Radan, but I'm gonna go and get Radan way later. And here is the Mimic, and the Mimic can mimic a lot of things, but it hasn't learned how to mimic the pizza swap yet, so we are safe for now. So there's the Mimic, and Mimic is dead. So the reason I go to Nokron is because from here I can get to Leyndell. There are several ways to get to Leyndell, and one of them is actually a portal or series of portals that you can take from here to get to the Deeproot Depths, and then from there to Leyndell, the capital. And going through Altus Plateau would be quite a bit slower, which is the other alternative way, because I need to go to Nokron here anyways to kill a Remembrance boss, which is the Regal Ancestor Spirit. Not the Regal Slayer Ancestor Spirit, even though he's gonna get slain, but Regal. In order to spawn him, I'm gonna go ahead and light up these fires. There are 6 of them. And while that is happening, I think this would be a good time to either read a donation or two or plug something that we have to plug.
Well, I've got quite a few donations, but we'll do a couple. I have a $1 donation from Goofball the Cat saying first, and yes, you were the first donator of SCM 2022. Thank you so much. We also have a $25 donation from Dr. Dino. Here's to the best 3 days of the year to watch the best marathon on Twitch. And of course it's the best marathon on Twitch. You have Wolfie, you have Kara. What more could you want? Isn't that right, Kara?
Damn right.
That's what I would say. Do you have time for more?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. We have a $10 donation from Wasted saying, let's see that live sub Danny time. And lastly, for now, we have a $200 donation
Woo!
from Charisse saying, let's go, best team in the world. Thank you guys for all your hard work in putting this event together. Good luck this weekend for the kids. Thank you so much for your donations, guys. Keep them coming, and I will hand it back to the lovely Kara.
Thank you so much for the generous donations. Keep them coming. Obviously, don't forget that a lot of donations also qualify you for some amazing prizes we got for you this year. And shout out to Charisse. She's the main graphic designer. When you see the awesome overlays and everything, that's her work. So thank you so much for the very generous donation and for your hard work as well. So here's gonna be the Regal Ancestor Spirit. I got hit by an arrow, so I heal just in case. And the strat for this fight is depending on what opener I get. Well, the strat for every fight is just to gun them down. But there are 3 openers that I can get, and I got the jump, so I'm just gonna run underneath him. Wait for him to land. Pizza swap again. Get rid of him. And then run towards the thread. So these threads that I'm running towards right now, they essentially warp you to the start of the dungeon that you're in. Here it's not really a dungeon, it's really just a boss fight, but I am in this separate area, and this is gonna allow me to warp back to where I entered. here, I'm gonna go ahead and quit out again. And that is because I'm gonna be setting up Pegasus to go to the Valiant Gargoyles, which even with my Serpent Hunter 47 can troll me quite a bit, so we'll see. The good thing is that I will be able to keep Pegasus at the start of the fight. Normally you're not supposed to have the horse available, but again, due to the Pegasus glitch, I can keep it even in an area that normally doesn't allow it, and I can hopefully create a little bit of distance and gun them down. But first, I need to lose some height, so in order to do that, I'm gonna run into this pillar over here. And you can see that very slowly I can lose some height like that. And then I can clip into the aqueduct here. And let's see. This wouldn't be like, you know, the worst death if we died here, because there's the stake of Marika nearby, so I wouldn't have to run back all the way from my last grace. Okay, I want to like trigger an attack, which is kind of happening. All right, let's gun him down. There we go. I played it safe. I wanted to make sure that I don't get trolled, because sometimes the Gargs can actually animation cancel as well, meaning that they will... Let me drop these 2 items here, by the way, because they would get in the way in the menu. They basically start an attack, and it looks like they're going to do 1 attack, and then they can just, like, cancel into a jump and jump towards you when you're not expecting it. So I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. In a run, I would just go for the full YOLO strats, obviously. But, yeah, so far so good when it comes to the pizza swap consistency. Now, the glitch is very difficult to perform. Like, you can see that the menuing sequence is very quick, but it's not just the speed that is necessary. It's basically a little bit of a rhythm. Just doing everything as fast as possible is gonna lock you out of the menus and not allow you to swap the equipment in the inventory. So there's a little bit of a trick to it. But it is very satisfying to perform, at least. So, as you saw, I went through the coffin, and normally, like I said, reloading areas will reset the gravity state. However, there's no loading screen that I go through. Instead, I just go through a black screen. And that means I get to keep Pegasus even for this next area, so through Deep Root Depths, I don't have to run on foot, but... well, not on foot, but like just regularly on the ground, but I can beeline directly into the next Fierce Champions fight, and... Here, normally it would force me off the horse already, but thanks to Pegasus I can keep it again. Super convenient, because the arena is extremely large. That's because there's another boss fight here later on, but let's wait for these a-holes to spawn in now. And treat them like they deserve to be treated. So here there's actually something that I'm going for, and that is... I'm trying to stand behind the NPCs to get a specific death animation from them. Didn't get it here from Rogier, but I got it from the Lance guy. Basically, if you get an animation where you kill the NPCs from behind, the animation's a little bit faster. And because this is a wave-based boss fight, the sooner I can get the waves to spawn, the quicker the fight will be. So, there's my triple kill collateral right there. Don't even need to be playing CSGO for that. So that went smooth. Wave 3 was actually kind of fast as well. You know that a run is consistent, very, very consistent enough with good execution that you worry about death animations and stuff. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that can lose quite a bit of time. There's gonna be another NPC later on where a death animation will be of concern. Additionally, for some reason, Rogier can sometimes also spawn without iframes. I have no idea what causes it. Like, I cannot really have any kind of justification from it from the AI script for him. And if he does, I can basically kill him immediately as he spawns in. You saw that I was able to get some damage off on them. That can happen, but one-shotting Rogier before he even spawns in means that I don't have to wait for him to spawn in and the third wave spawns earlier. So, now we are in Lanedale, but instead of killing Morgoth to proceed to the mountaintops, I'm gonna go ahead and set up Pegasus again. And normally, I'm supposed to kill Morgoth now and get the grand, get the rolled medallion to be able to get to the grand lift of rolled, and then get to the mountaintops. However, that is slow, because after you kill Morgoth, if you rest at a grace, Melina is gonna show up. and give you the medallion, and that takes about 16 seconds. So I want to delay Morgoth all the way until I access the Forge of the Giants in the mountaintops. That's basically what makes Melina not show up at a Grace in Lanedale anymore. So we'll be coming back for Morgoth later. And the way I'm gonna get to mountaintops is actually another super convenient wrong warp, because the default location, the first spawn point on the list for the bottom area here, is actually the top of the elevator, so... And then another neat trick, instead of running to the elevator itself and then wrong warping from there, where I would also have to quit out to de-aggro Gargoyle, I'm gonna go ahead and find a little piece of stable ground that I can stand on, and that's gonna update my position here at the mountain. So I'm just gonna run towards it like this. And then I have to be a little bit careful, because it is very easy to gain too much height. And losing height is not really possible here to get to the stable ground. So I'll make sure to touch the mountain first. That's gonna load in the area. You're gonna see a little lag on your screen. And then I'm gonna carefully navigate to the stable position on the left side. And that way I'll be able to wrong warp to the mountaintops. So we saw the lag. Go to the left here and wrong warp. Now, the wrong warp is also a little bit of a precise trick. It's not as easy as it's made to seem so far, fortunately. Essentially, if I confirm the map warp too early, what ends up happening is that the map warp just takes priority, because the initial warp using the Memory of Grace item that takes me to my last Grace doesn't get triggered on time. And if I warp too late, then I do not actually confirm the map warp. So it's only the first warp that gets triggered. So I need to time it basically perfectly. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work, and that would be very bad in some cases, and would send me really far back, because it would send me to my last Grace. Another wrong warp from here. This one actually is also super nifty, because there's another medallion you're supposed to obtain, and there are ways to get down there even without wrong warps, but the wrong warp is the fastest way. And that is to get to the consecrated snowfield. You're supposed to get a different medallion, the Halic Tree medallion, and then use it on the elevator. However, I can jump around a kill plane. You saw that it still activated the death cam, but the death cam is actually separated from the kill plane. So I jump over a kill plane and land on a piece of ground that is considered to be part of the consecrated snowfield, and then after wrong warping, I end up in a valid position again. The reason I go to the snowfield right now is because of Mog. Mog is a boss that's in the Mogwin Palace. He needs to be killed because he has a remembrance. He also gives a lot of runes. So if I can kill him before my next rest, that'll be nice. I have one more level up to do. And maybe some DS2 gamers are getting PTSD now from this area. For which I apologize, but that's just the risk associated with the job. And here I'm gonna navigate to the inner consecrated snowfield Grace, which is down here. Reason for that again is to be able to rest here later, and also to be able to wrong warp. So I light it, and then I'll run over to the next area on the map grid, and I'm gonna wrong warp. This wrong warp takes me closer to the Mogwin Palace, and right after that is gonna be the second intended death of the run. This one actually, this is my strat, one of the few actual strategies for this particular run that I have found. Of course I didn't, let me see if I can salvage this a little bit. So I didn't go far enough, and I wrong warped in the wrong area still. Okay, all good, all salvaged. No unintended deaths here. This is 1.02, but the run could be down on 1.03 as well. The patch doesn't make a difference for this. So, like I said, the problem here was I didn't actually run far enough, and I wrong warped to the wrong location. So let's try this again. So again, wrong warping to the Stormhill Shack, which is going to put me out of bounds. We quit out to be put into the original area, but wrong warp within it. And this time it should take me hopefully closer to the Mogwin Palace. And then I'll be able to do the second intended death here. And this is abusing the Stake of Marika, or utilizing it. So you can see the icon in the top left corner. And I'll be able to spawn at it instead of spawning at the last grace. And this Stake of Marika takes me a little bit closer to the portal that I need to go to. But more importantly, it allows me to get past the Invader Anastasia, which would invade me if I just ran normally from the wrong warp location. And if you're being invaded, you cannot get on the horse. So I wouldn't be able to run this little part on the horse. However, I'm gonna get invaded again, this time by Sanguine Noble. I'm gonna use this dog to set up another pizza swap. Yeah, rolls will save you for a bit, but not for long. Again, the strat for this NPC, first of all, he needs to be killed so this portal activates and I can get to the Mogwin Palace. And the strat, once again, you saw me trying to kill him from behind. And I, again, got the good animation where he dies quicker so I can get on the horse faster. And now we go to the Mogwin Palace. Now, this is basically like a pretty small, but still a legacy dungeon. However, the outside of the mausoleum is sort of treated like an overworld, meaning that you can use the horse. And I'm gonna abuse that to the fullest extent, obviously. So I set up torrent here. I'm gonna walk off. This one's a little bit more precise. Hopefully that's fine. I might be a little bit too far to the right. This would be a pretty unfortunate death because my last grace is still in the snowfield. But we're good. And the horse actually died extremely quickly, so that was really nice. That is something I've wanted to test for a while, is actually... there's this scenario, which you just saw, where the horse can die very quickly because he drops on some kind of a different kill plane. And I've never really had proper footage, or was too lazy to go back, because usually it takes longer for the horse to die. But I think I just figured it out, and that is, if you walk like as slowly as possible and just barely clip off the platform, you're probably gonna, or rather Torrent is gonna spawn so close to the cliff that he's gonna drop onto the first kill plane that's there. Neat. Well, now I know. If I come back to this category, I'll maybe give it a shot. Anyways, on the horse right now, because the Mog fight has a cutscene, I can activate the fight just by running in there from out of bounds like this. And then I'm gonna drop off, pizza swap, and greet him. Tres. And that's as far as he gets. So, yeah. Starts at 3 and ends at 3. Immediately you see me quit out. If you're familiar with Dark Souls, you might think that the boss is not dead. But it works a little bit, for some of the bosses, it works a little bit differently in this game. So I was able to quit out, and as long as I stay within the area, the boss is gonna die after me loading in. The reason I did that quit out is because when you kill Mog, he has a pretty long monologue. And the monologue needs to end before he dies and you get the kill. So quitting out there basically interrupts that monologue, but doesn't interrupt the game perceiving him as dead. So that is really nice. Freshing myself here a little bit and throwing the horse down the cliff again. That is because we are now going to run through the mountaintops. Because there are not that many options that we have right now in terms of what to go and kill. So we're going to go and get Fire Giant to get to the forge and be able to do a little bit of a cleanup afterwards, you know, and be able to get to Morgoth and stuff. However, because the mountaintops are essentially an area that is really large, it forces you to go from point A to point B and then kind of back to point A again, except elevated. However, what I can do is this very precise skip. And there's kill planes all above me here, so I need to be very, very careful. Any extra height would have killed me there when I went on the branch. And now I jumped over the kill plane, but it's still not over yet. I need to get a little bit more elevation. Okay, now I need to avoid a death cam trigger, so I go really wide here. Wide vibe, by the way. And then it's still not over because there's this hand, but the hand was chill, so it seems like we're good. Unless my game crashes when running to the Fire Giant. So that is a very, very precise skip, like I said. Because that area, like all these areas up here, are obviously normally accessible. So you can also drop down and die. You can like drop off the cliff. So the developers had to put kill planes all around in order to kill the player. And we basically navigate just underneath and just above the kill planes. So I gain as much height as possible while staying underneath it. Then go to a small point where there's basically a hole in it. Jump through that hole to get on top of it. Land on the branch to not lose height. And then get a bit more elevation, and yeah. Fortunately, it went well. Here for the fire giant, this is the fastest pathing we can get. However, it can be really annoying because I need to get elevation again using this tree. However, this tree can be brought down by the enemy. So fortunately, it didn't happen this time, but either the hand or the bird chasing me there can just break the tree and this allow me to get height off of it. For Fire Giant, if he opens with AoE, which he probably will, I'll abuse the fact that I have iframes, so I'm getting off the horse while stationary. Like this. And then I'm gonna pizza swap. Wow, dude. Okay. I didn't actually break the bracelet somehow. Let's try that again. There we go. I want to break the bracelet because then I can just keep on attacking him, stagger him, and kill him. But we get to see the infamous Fire Giant roll in action. And then for phase 2, I go slightly forwards to ensure that the hitbox of the Pizza Swap Serpent Hunter keeps on hitting his eye. And I get a lot of damage before he even, you know, goes down to do his first scripted attack. The positioning there is a little bit tricky because if I go too close, I'm not going to be hitting the eye, and if I stay too far, I'm going to be out of range. Now here at the forge, because I'm still keeping Pegasus throughout all of this, I should be able to just navigate over it like this. Very nice. And then we'll be resting here, talking to Melina. But I'm not going to be leveling up just yet, because there's one more grace that I need to rest at. And so it will be more beneficial to just keep the souls for now. Runes, I mean, of course. They're totally not souls and bonfires and Estus flasks. So keeping the runes for now is beneficial because it allows me to just do that one level up in one go instead of leveling up twice. Obviously, there's still the risk that I will lose the runes, but let's hope that doesn't happen. So here, running through Faro Missoula, I would keep the Pegasus glitch activated, but I cannot actually get on the horse anymore as soon as I enter this area, so I have to run on foot. However, that allows me to perform some nice bow cancels here. So for example, here you'll see it in action, hopefully, if I don't mess it up. Beautiful. And I'll be doing another one here that I'll be quitting out when I'm getting around an enemy. Don't want to deal with this guy. I have like no health. I'm basically one shot away from death, so I can quit out. And fortunately, Fire Missoula for some reason is an area where after quitting out, you do not have a stand-up animation in a lot of places. So you basically, in-game time-wise, you basically do not even lose time. RTA, we obviously lost a little bit, but that's no big deal. One important thing that I realized I forgot to mention is that when I'm pizza swapped, I actually repeatedly tap forwards on my analog stick with both of my thumbs. That allows me to basically keep on slowly, or not slowly, but rapidly perform small steps. And each step essentially allows me to sort of reset the cooldown, presumably, that's how I think it works. Between the two ticks of the stance. Now, this is not a property of the pizza swap glitch itself. That is just how the Giz's wheel stance works by default. And that way I can get a lot more DPS. That is really, really important because without it, It basically increases my DPS by like 30%. Without it, I would have to upgrade my weapon further than +4 because I would not be able to kill some of these bosses on time. Like, you've noticed a lot of these boss fights essentially just become a kill or be killed scenario. Like, you go ahead, you perform the glitch, but then obviously, as I'm, you know, in an activated stance, I cannot roll attacks. I cannot really even move around. I'm just moving very, very slowly. And the pizza swap also drains all my stamina, obviously. And as such, even if I let go of the stance, I cannot roll for a pretty long period of time afterwards. So you need to enter a fight, you need to hit the pizza swap first try, and if I didn't have enough damage, I would probably be hit out of it. Alright, so Academy, third time doing this cool little setup to get Pegasus in one. And this time we are finally gonna go and fight Renala. And this is where the pizza swap can shine on the first phase. I think you're gonna like it. So let's set up Pegasus here. And Pegasus is gonna allow us to navigate through the Academy much quicker. Not just because I can run around here, but also because I'll be able to do a little skip to get on the broken bridge on the top. So let's get on this water wheel. And this is the time I'm gonna start popping some of the Remembrances. Because after this, I'm gonna be heading to Radan. And heading to Radan is also gonna include me getting trapped by a grace. Or by a chest. So that means I need to rest at a grace. And that rest is gonna be the time when I go and do the final level up. So let's use the water wheel to get some extra elevation. Then I lose a little bit of it because I need to get out of this cave. And I'm too low now to get on that bridge. However, there's a very convenient rock there that allows me to get just enough height to get up here. And now we can beeline to Renala. However, Moongram is in the way, the carrion knight here. And he's also an a-hole, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna jump off the horse, get on the elevator, and then quit out. The elevator is unstable ground, so it's gonna spawn me just outside of it. And this way, I don't have to deal with Moongram whatsoever, because he will be put back into his default position, default state, and doesn't bother me. Which is really good, because if he gets on the elevator with me, it could be really, really bad, since, as you can see, still I'm on base vigor, so that would be cool. Okay, so for Renala, I need to hit 3 students in phase 1, but let's hit a couple more. There we go, broke the seal now. There's no one to bear the seal if there's no students left. That's Renala phase 1. For phase 2, I'm immediately gonna face away and pizza swap again. And that's Renala. And then I make sure to walk away because Renala, just like, for example, Mog, also has a death dialogue. However, with this death dialogue, it actually has a range because Renala, to my knowledge, is the only boss that has a little bit of a delay between her dialogue playing, her death dialogue playing, and the death itself. And in that time, I can increase my distance and basically go out of range of that dialogue. So it never plays, and I save like 6 seconds or so. Pretty cool. Another thing that you notice is that I looked into the ground. That is because the Jesus wheel stance, the way you're holding it normally is basically you're aiming a little bit up. So in order to be able to aim straight in front of me, I have to aim down. However, the only way to like aim down enough is to aim like really, really low, but then the aim is gonna shift and hit the ground. So if I want to aim straight in front of me, I need to be basically tilting my camera up and down. So that's basically what I did on Renala there in phase 2. So now we're gonna be heading to Radan. And the fastest way to do that is to get transported to the Celia town here, the Celia tunnel, and then run through Celia town. But because I'm trapped now, I'm gonna rest at this grace because I won't be able to wrong warp otherwise. And this is also the perfect time to go ahead and level up strength. So I'm gonna level up everything. The Serpent Hunter scales off of strength, has A scaling in strength, so these strength levels give me some extra damage. I could level up some extra vigor as well, but it's faster to just level up everything into one, so. So let's run through Celia here. And then I'm gonna run to a very interesting area where there's basically sort of like almost an overlap. There's a crossing of 3 different regions. And in order to get to the correct one and wrong warp correctly, I need to jump on a little rock here. And it's a little bit of a precise spot, so hopefully everything will be fine. And then I'm gonna wrong warp, and the wrong warp is actually gonna take me out of bounds, and that's gonna be the 3rd intended death of the run. However, it will also spawn me within a stake of Marika range, and I'll be able to spawn outside of Radan's arena. Because this wrong warp basically takes me into like an out of bounds area around that arena. So let's jump on this. Wrong warp. Again, first I go Stormhill Shack. Wrong warp in this area. Puts me out of bounds. After a quit outs, it puts me to the original position. Or original area, but to the first spawn point on the list. Fall to my death, but again, Stake of Marika icon visible in the top left. And then Radan is one of the bosses that definitely has some RNG, so let's hope he usually trolls me in marathon runs. I did a little D-Rust earlier today, he trolled me there as well. So we'll see. I basically need to approach him because at the end of the fight, there's a grace that I need to light anyways. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to warp away. So while approaching him, the first orb, I'm going to block with this attack. Or sorry, with this weapon rack. For the second orb, I'm going to abuse iframes from getting on torrents. Okay, here's overhead. That's looking good so far. Okay, followed by a shotgun. Another one. That's good. And an orb which will get blocked by... Which will get blocked by another rack, and then he shows me his swords, and he's dead. So, yeah, nice swords, buddy, but... There's nothing on my gun, unfortunately. So that was good. That was very, very nice. Now I just need to wait for this cutscene. You can also quit out to basically activate it immediately, but RTA, it probably doesn't really save time. And then you saw that I was able to warp even though it was crossed out. That's because I used a little trick that I've used a couple of times this run, but I haven't mentioned yet. Because it really is only minor. But when you're lighting a grace, the game doesn't allow you to get into the map anymore and warp for obvious reasons. However, if I light a grace from an angle, I first have to pivot again. My character has to, you know, turn towards the grace and then start the light animation. And during the pivot, it is possible to open the map, so then I can basically warp immediately as the grace is lit, instead of having to wait for the animation to end or to rest. Alright, so now we are finally gonna tie up the loose ends here in Lanedale and go kill Morgoth. However, to all the Morgoth fans, I have to apologize, because the fight is gonna be even less intense than a pizza swap fight would be. That is because I activate Pegasus, I run around Lanedale like this, I make sure to load it by landing on a little platform there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get onto a platform outside of Lanedale here. Now, because I have Pegasus still active, the game's not gonna force me off the horse, which is crucial. I'm gonna walk off of the platform, so that the game stores my position at the edge of it, and that's gonna allow me to get a jump. So first I get on this platform, walk off very slowly to spawn as close to the end, and then I'm gonna jump forwards and to the left side. Now the reason for that is the jump forwards like this. So jump forwards, then to the left. The reason for this is because the jump forwards touches the wall, right? It touches the wall, and that loads Lanedale properly. However, then I pivot immediately to the left to drop out of bounds like this. And because there's no kill plane there, I can keep on falling. Now, normally there is a 12-second timer that kills you. If you're falling for 12 seconds, you die, right? However, if I'm on the horse, I can attack, not once, but repeatedly. Normally, if you're falling just as a player character, you can attack once and that resets the timer. But if I'm on the horse, I can attack repeatedly and repeatedly reset this 12-second timer. And so I can just keep on falling down under the map. And eventually I can fall so far that everything above me is gonna deload, which is gonna make Morgoth fall as well. However, he doesn't have a horse, so 12 seconds later, you're gonna hear what actually ends up happening. I cannot show you the kill. So here first is a beetle that dies. Now I need to prepare my warp and I need to warp immediately as we hear the kill. And that's Morgoth dying right there. The reason I need to warp immediately is because when you kill Morgoth, a little bit after his death, you are trapped again, right? Normally when you kill Morgoth, you need to go touch the roots before you can, and rest at a grace before you can continue. However, there's a little bit of a delay before it actually locks you out of warping. And normally you cannot warp in that time because you're in combat, so you cannot open the map. But since we're not in combat, I can have the map open. So now we're gonna go kill 40 sacks. For that, I need to talk to Fia here and get hugged, which is nice, but also slow. And also not that eventful in terms of gameplay. So this is the perfect time to go ahead and get something red, Wolfie.
Well, I do have a $25 donation from QQ saying, "Good morning, SCM. I should have probably spent this money on an alarm clock, but I'll donate it instead."
Thank you.
Good luck to all the runners and staff at this event. And just so you guys are aware, there are quite a few incentives this weekend to put your donations towards. And the rule of thumb is for about 90% of them, you're going to make it harder for the runners, which is always way more fun. That's pretty much how I always frame it, because, you know, let's make things more difficult and challenging for them, because, you know, Souls games are not challenging enough, in my opinion. They need to be harder.
Yeah, well, I mean, seeing this at first glance, I don't think this run looks very challenging when it comes to boss fights, but that's because so far I've been able to hit the pizza swap, so hopefully we keep that up. So yeah, let's keep it PG, look away. So we hug Fia. And then we enter the 40 sacks fight. We spend like 5 minutes making sure that we have access to this boss fight. And then I get here, turn around, unlock to be able to hit the head, which is a weak spot. Oh, he actually survived. That's kind of crazy. Because I got interrupted by a lightning there, and I'm dead. Not like this! 40 sacks! What are you doing? Oh, I died to the dead blights. I see, I didn't even fail the roll. Haha, instant jinx. So that's actually wild. Because what happened there is extremely unlucky. So one of the lightnings spawned right next to me as I was killing 40 sacks. And it also triggered on time before I killed the boss. And the boss, as you could see, of course, Elden Ring special, survived with 1 HP. Alright, let's try this again, shall we? Oh, I played so much better this time around. Lightning didn't hit me. Alright, so that was that. Let's wait for the fight to end. Again, you can quit out after this fight, but that will be slower RTA. Well, actually, maybe not, but whatever. So now we're gonna head over to Astel after the first unintended death of the run. That was very funny. Funniest part is that I was so focused afterwards on dodging the spin attack that was coming up that I didn't realize I was still standing in the mist and ended up getting death blighted. Or maybe I actually did get hit by the spin and then death blighted afterwards, just in case I wasn't dead enough. I think that's what happened because the death blight animation didn't play. Well, after all of that, let's continue here. So now I'm gonna go to Astel. It might seem a little bit weird that I'm going to Astel by going to, you know, the Temple Quarter Grace and then running back here to the Moonlight Altar. However, this is because I don't really want to run through Lake of Rots and everything that's connected to it. That being said, there is a way to get around that, which is very, very good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get here, and to you who have played this game casually, you will know that after killing Astel, there's an elevator that takes you to the Moonlight Altar. I am currently underneath the Moonlight Altar. And what I can do is I can set up Pegasus here by walking off. And then I can touch a certain part of an out-of-bounds area, which is gonna load the Lake of Rot in. And part of the Lake of Rot is also this elevator. And the elevator obviously has to extend all the way up to the Moonlight Altar. And then if I get on stable ground that's around the elevator shaft, I can wrong warp into the Lake of Rot. So Lake of Rot is underneath us, but you can see it's not loaded. The only thing that's loaded is Liurnia right now. So let's run and change that. And super conveniently, yet again, the spawn point for Lake of Rot, or for the area within Lake of Rot that I am in, is right before Astel. It's not the top of, you know, the elevator at Moonlight Altar, or the bottom where there would be a seal and I would have to do a kind of convoluted skip to get around it. No. Instead, it is in front of Astel at the Stake of Marika. So I touch that, you see the elevator spawns in. Touch stable ground. Wrong warp. This would be a very bad wrong warp to fail, because it would take me all the way back to Temple Quarter Grace. And we are here, Lake of Rot. So Astel is another boss that has RNG. There's more openers that can happen because his AI is a little bit scuffed sometimes. But generally, he's either gonna do an overhead or a hand swipe attack after his orb. I am hoping for the hand swipe because he gets closer to me sooner. If he does the overhead though, it's totally fine. It just ends up being a little bit slower. So let's see what we get. Yeah, so there's the overhead. Because I'm close enough, I don't actually have to roll it. Pizza swap, W tech. Hitting the head, that is actually a weak spot. So I deal more damage, and that's Astel. And from here, I'm gonna go to Malenia. So we're gonna go to the inner consecrated snowfields, do Ordina skip to get to the Halleck tree, and then run down. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned routing-wise is that we were already in Far Missoula, but instead of continuing through Far Missoula, I just took the Grace there, the Dragon Temple Grace, and then peaced out. Well, the reason for that is, and those that have been paying attention, you know that I still have the Devour Scepter, and I got it for a reason. However, I'm also still missing one piece of the puzzle, and that is the Hand of Malenia. I'll be able to do a skip in Far Missoula using those two tools. However, since, you know, Hand of Malenia can only really be obtained much later on, for that reason, I only take the Grace in Farum and will be coming back later. So here I'm gonna set up Pegasus again. Don't really have to do that, but it makes this skip easier. Tomorrow during the relay, I'll probably try to do the more RTA-friendly method, which was also patched on 1.04, but yeah. So essentially, this little part of the rock that I'm using, this one right here, you can scale it even without Pegasus. That's a little bit tricky. So instead of going through Ordina and then unsealing the seal, releasing the seal there, I can just run around without having to do that insane Everjail with the archers. And now through the Halleck tree. I probably should have taken the Grace behind me, just in case, because if I die right now, I'll spawn all the way back in the snowfield. So let's hope that doesn't happen. Obviously, pretty much anything is gonna one-shot me, even though I'm wearing Bernal's armor. I'll quit out first as I land here. That resets the ants to their default positions, which allows me to run through here, hopefully. And then I'll also be quitting out for the bubbles that are going to be coming from the Oracle Envoys. Which, again, unsurprisingly, would be a one-shot. Okay, I think I'm just decided to peace out. Bubbles are coming in, we quit out. Wait for the bubbles again. Quit out one more time. And coming up is going to be a pretty cool skip. So again, DS2 gamers might be getting PTSD once again from this run. I'm sorry. Because I'll be abusing the properties of the riposte. Because this is a vertical area you're supposed to run around, essentially, and get to a lower platform. What I can do is I can try and bait an enemy. I'm also going to activate a blessing here. This adds me... We got this from Fia, and it basically gives me extra poise. So in case I get hit, I should be able to poise through it. And perfect. Now I'm gonna quit out, and I'll be at the bottom. So the quit out is basically just to reset the enemies, but I ended up baiting some attacks out of this dude. The reason for that is because there are some attacks that are gonna make this skip pretty much impossible to do, so I made sure to get them, to set them on an internal cooldown. And then because the riposte animation, after I parried and did the riposte, has iframes through its entire duration, and it lasts long enough for when I touch the ground after the fall, it prevents fall damage from occurring. And that way I'm able to skip to the bottom of the Halleck tree. Down to Loretta, which gets sniped. And that was Loretta, so... It can become, again, if you miss the pizza swap, it can be really tricky because she gets off her phalanx, which obviously is like basically homing soul mass from Dark Souls. And it will kill you very easily with this HP. We do not miss this solid ladder, if you know what I'm saying. Longest ladder in the game. And what I do here is because I hacked Fiat twice, I get 2 of those blessings that give poise. However, if I also have them, it gives me a 5% HP debuff. So I made sure to use both those blessings to not have to deal with that debuff. Okay, let's dodge this clean road knight. I'm gonna light the grace. And at the same time, I'm also gonna quit out. So again, what I do here is I light the grace from a slight angle, so I'm able to open up the quit out menu and I can quit out during it. The reason I'm taking this grace is because there's going to be another skip coming up, which is going to be the 4th intended death this run. But first, some bow cancels here, but never mind. And I scratch my butt as well. That's probably that. Probably got to go to the toilet, that's why the bow cancel didn't work. So, this little shortcut... Well, it's a really big shortcut, as you can see. Normally, you're supposed to activate it from the bottom, but I can just fall to my death, and as you can see, my corpse activates the button and puts the shortcut to the top. And now I can go ahead and spawn at this grace and run back and just take the elevator to go to Malenia. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. That was better. See, it didn't even look that different, but the timing was slightly different. And, it was the difference between making it work or not. So when I was talking about how precise these bow cancels can be, there you go. Now here what's interesting is I want to keep 4 remembrances specifically. That is because when I'm going to be getting the Hand of Malenia from Enya in Roundtable Hold, it's going to save me inputs that way because the menu doesn't snap to like the next available item, but actually just goes to the next slot. And this way, the Malenia Remembrance will be all the way on the right, so it's just going to be one click that I need to do, one button press. There's Malenia, Lady of Mikela, and she gets her own medicine of an annoying attack. And here's phase 2, and here in like full glory, you can see me having to aim down and up to be able to aim in front of me and hit her. So I'm gonna go ahead and equip my armor, put my Uchi into my left hand. This is basically preparation for the skip that's gonna be coming up. So first, like I said, roundtable hold, talk to Enya, get the Hand of Malenia. And now, instead of... Let's go back to the Dragon Temple. And now, instead of fighting the Godskin duo, but most importantly, instead of running all the way around Faramazula, which is basically like a circular area. Oh, panic roll there. I'm gonna be able to do a very, very neat skip to get to the Great Bridge here. First, I'm gonna have to quit out around these knights because they're insane. And the way this skip is gonna work, it's basically like a little move swap, sort of. I'm gonna get stuck in an action, which is gonna be an attack. Then I'm gonna queue up the stance of the Uchi again. But then before the stance is executed... Oh, nice. He actually reached me there. Well, that's a very short run back. Normally, this guy basically... I don't think he's ever killed me like that. Well, at least I have more time to explain the skip. So, as I'm making my way back, as I was saying, I'm gonna attack to get stuck in an animation. I'm gonna queue up the unsheath stance. And then, as that is queued up, I'm gonna go ahead and swap the Uchigatana for the Devour Scepter. The Devour Scepter is a weapon that has... The Devour Scepter has its skill. It has a skill that allows you to move at the beginning of its performance. And that's gonna go ahead and glitch out the animation. Yeah, see, it was way more chill this time. One more quit out here to get around this guy and de-aggro him. And that's gonna allow me to airwalk for a brief period of time. And then, because Hand of Malenia is in my right hand, I'm actually able to mid-air follow up. Like this, so that's the airwalk. And now the Waterfowl Dance follow up, and I'm able to get enough distance to go all the way to the other side and get to the Great Bridge here. Massive, massive skip. Like, even dying there, you know, this still saves a lot of time. So that's really, really nice. Yeah, like I said, you need the Hand of Malenia for the follow-up. You need a weapon with a stance, which we do have. And then we need the Devour Scepter in this case. You need any weapon that has a skill that allows you to move at the beginning of it. However, Devour Scepter is the fastest one to obtain. So those are the three key components to make that skip work. Now, as you can see, I'm performing another skip here. That is because the elevator to get back to Placidusax is on the bottom at the moment. That's bow cancel there. So it is faster to... It is actually faster to go ahead and do this little skip. And get around the elevator that way. Now, the big thing with that skip is that there's a little bit of a... There's a kill box as well. You saw that little scuff jump I did? Instead of just jumping to the lower rooftop, I went forwards and then jumped sideways. That is because there's a kill plane that extends pretty far down. So I had to make sure that I avoided it. So here's Placidusax. And these late game fights, almost all of them are basically like, you miss a swap, you're gonna die. So let's hope that doesn't happen. I'm gonna run close enough so that I can just keep on attacking him once I stagger him. So the swap, got the stagger. I didn't go close enough, so I need to aim down a little bit. Not a big problem. Placidusax is dead. Again, like, these fights have less to do with the bosses, but more with you, you know, being able to perform the glitch. So... More jumping up hills. Like I said, that is a little bit faster than running on foot. Now for Maliketh, there's actually a possibility to have like a 6-second time save happen, but it depends on RNG, and it's also really, really precise to get. So we'll see. I'll talk about it after I kill him, hopefully. So let's enter the fight. That's pizza swap. I actually got it. Insane. So what happens here, I kill him so fast in phase 1 that the second line of his opening dialogue is still playing. Sorry, that the first line of his opening dialogue is still playing before the second line plays. That's when I end the first phase. So what ends up happening, you enter phase 2 and the second sentence of his opening dialogue starts playing. However, while that sentence is still active, I kill him. But because the dialogue from the first phase is still playing, his death dialogue cannot play, and that saves like 6 or 7 seconds. So that was huge. Not even my Reki actually has that. That was really nice. So essentially what's so difficult about it is you need to get into a very specific position to basically not be too far but not too close, hit pizza swap very quickly, and have perfect W-tech execution to not drop any DPS, so that you can kill him super, super fast in phase 1 before his second sentence starts playing. And that happened, so that's cool. Redeemed my 40 sacks death a little bit. So, now here's Gideon. Speaking of bosses with a long dialogue, well, this guy is like the epiphany of that. So he's right there, chilling, but I'm not gonna care, because even though I could destroy him obviously very quickly with the pizza swap before he even has a chance to do anything, because not only does he close with a long monologue, he also opens with a long monologue. Instead, what I can do is I can jump around here, and I can get on a little branch here, and then use the Loretta's sickle like that to get extra height. This is possible even without it, without the Loretta slash skill, but it's a little bit more precise and a little bit slower. And get on top of the building where Gideon is, and instead of dealing with his talkative ass, which I'm not the one to talk, because as you've noticed, I also like to talk quite a bit, I can just skip him completely and get to the final 2 boss fights this way. Very, very cool skip. This branch itself is actually patched out. It got patched to 1.5, but there's still a way to do it with basically with the skip that with the same tech that I used to get to the Great Bridge. To get over the Great Bridge, you can basically do something similar. All right, so here's Horulu. Strat for this guy. Essentially run backwards. He opens with a scripted attack, the scripted dash. Pizza swap, W-tech. Quick death. Second phase opens with a scripted attack again, the grab. Get out of range. W-tech, and he's dead. So that was Horulu. Again, the fight doesn't look very difficult once you hit the swaps, but missing any of these swaps is basically gonna kill a run. And they're not easy to do. Now for Radagon. Radagon is also scripted to walk towards you at the beginning of the fight for a bit. Well, it doesn't take very long to end the fight with this tech, so what I'm gonna do is walk towards him, so I'm close enough to be just able to aim straight and then swap. And after this, there's just one more swap to go, and that'll be that. Teabag him a little bit. And that's it. That was Elden Ring All Remembrances, because Elden Beast gets destroyed. We get to jump for joy and get a little bit of rest. Also a lot of running around in this run, okay? Oof. And the time's gonna be coming up once I get to the statue and skip the cutscenes. So that is gonna be time.
The fallen leaves.
Well, there you go. That was Elden Ring All Remembrances, unplanned opener of the marathon. The newest game in the series, destroyed probably in under 90 minutes, I think. Pretty good run. Basically, besides 40 sacks and the 1 death in Farum, it was as good as I would want it to get. So hopefully I can avoid those deaths tomorrow when they actually matter in the relay, obviously. Let's watch the ending. And yeah, like I said, this is the most, besides zipping, this is the most, you know, most broken showcase of Elden Ring that we have. So what I can say is, if you want to see more of the gameplay, you can, of course, follow my stream, because I'm running actual Elden Ring All Remembrances glitchless now, which is not a category yet. I'm making it a category, did a lot of routing, and we've been doing runs the past few weeks. So for more gameplay, you can check that out, obviously. And if you're interested in more Elden Ring during SCM, like I said, tomorrow there will be the relay, which Elden Ring will be part of. And also, my friend Mitch is going to be running Elden Ring any percent, which is also going to feature this glitch, but much quicker routing. So that will be fun to see. But of course, besides Elden Ring, there's a lot more amazing things coming up in this marathon. This is just the beginning. and time's gonna fly by quick, so make sure that you don't miss any of it. From me, that's it. I'm gonna send it to Wolfie if he has any final words.
Before you go, Kara, before you go, obviously
Okay.
thanks for the awesome run, but we have a $10 donation from Anonymous saying Franker Z, and we have another donation which I wanted to read to you directly before you leave for the day, which is for $500 from Natalie, which says, shout out to catalystz, great explanations, especially for the pizza swap, which blows my mind. Thank you so much for your donations, guys, but I just kind of want to back that up and just say that anytime I've ever seen you run any marathon, whether it's here or somewhere else, the way you explain things is honestly, it's such a strength of yours, and it's always so enjoyable to just listen to you. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank
for running
you
Elden Ring here.
for making me blush. Fortunately, no camera is on, so you cannot
I
see
can
my
always make you
redness. Yeah, thank you so much for the kind words. It's always a pleasure, and it's even more of a pleasure when I can, you know, try to utilize my craft and help a great cause at events that, you know, we ourselves are organizing. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope to see all of you later in the marathon.
Thanks so much, Kara. And coming up next will be Dark Souls Any Percent with QQ, who I think might have finally woken up. So we'll see you soon.